Hello, my name is Gloria Roberts. Today we shall be looking at the topic Organization of Life. Objectives of lesson. By the end of the lesson, students should be able to 1. Mention the 4 levels of organization of life. 2. Define the 4 levels of organization of life. 3. List at least 2 examples of each level. 4. State at least 3 advantages of complexity of organization of life. 5. State at least 3 disadvantages of complexity of organization of life. Living things exist from the simple to the complex, primitive to advanced. Living things are more organized in structures, forms, and function as they get more complex in the hierarchy of classification. Science believes that life arises as a result of reactions of atoms and molecules. These atoms and molecules are not living things, which build up to form complex structures and so on. Now, the hierarchy is therefore from macromolecules to organelles. Now, organelles and micromolecules are non-living things, which science believe build up over time to become cells. Cells evolve to become tissues. Tissues become organ. From organ, and move to the level of system. Note that life, however, starts from the cell. Therefore, we can say we have 4 major levels of organization of life. There are 4 main levels of organization of life, as I mentioned earlier. They are 1. The cell. 2. The tissue. 3. The organ. And 4. The system. We shall be discussing them one after the other. The first one here is the cell. Now, the cell is the structural and functional unit of life. Cell is the simplest form of life. It's therefore the building block of every living thing. There is no living thing that doesn't have a cell. Organisms with only one cell are called unicellular organisms, while those with 2 or more cells are called multicellular organisms. Uni means one, multi means many. Examples of animal cells are nerve cells, egg cells, sperm cell, red blood cell, white blood cell, and so on. Now, the image given here, you see some examples of these cells we are talking about. We have the red blood cell there. We have the ovum cell, also known as the egg cell in female. We have the nerve cell. We have the bone cell. We have the sperm cell, also known as spermatozoa in male. We have the columnar epithelial cell, and we've got the smooth muscle cells. Examples of plant cells are phloem cells, epithelial cells, xylem vessels, gut cells, palisade cells, and so on. Now, under the different kinds of plant cells, you see some of these cells we are talking about. We have the gut cells, palisade cells, epidermal cell in the root, and even onioepidermal cells. Some organisms exist in the cellular level. The meaning is that these organisms themselves are cells. Examples are protozoa such as the amoeba, euglena, paramecium, chlamydomonas, and so on. We also have bacteria and protophytes. Now, the second level is the tissue. Now, this is formed from the coming together or joining of 2 or more cells to perform a specific or specialized function. That means when you have several cells, either similar cells coming together, they will form a tissue. Mathematically, we can say that a tissue is cell plus cell equals to tissue, and the tissue will perform a specific function different from the individual cells. Examples of tissues in animals are blood, bones, cartilages, muscles, and so on. From the image at your side at the corner there, you find some of these tissues. We have the bone tissues, we have the blood as a tissue, the nervous tissue, the adipose tissues, cartilage tissue, connective tissue, muscle tissue, epithelial tissue, and so on. Now, examples of tissues in plants are mesophyll layer, palisade layer, parenchymal, xylem tissue, and so on. Now, if you look at the image at that side also you find some examples of the types of plant tissues. We have the parenchymal tissue, we have the collenchymal tissue, we have the sclerenchymal tissue, and so on. Now, some organisms like hydra, coral, sponges, algae, fungi exist in this level. The meaning is that they only have cells and tissues in them. Now, the third level is organ. This is a group of several tissues that come together to perform specific function. So when you have several organs coming together, several tissues, coming together, they will form an organ. And so this organ performs specific function. Mathematically, we can say organ is tissue plus tissue plus tissue equals to organ. Examples of organs in animals are kidney, liver, the brain, the stomach, etc. Now, if you look at the image at the side, under human anatomy set, you see some of these organs we are talking about. The brain is an organ, the heart is an organ, the lung is an organ, the kidney, they are organs. Even the male reproductive system, the female reproductive system, they are organs. Even the liver is an organ, the spleen is an organ, the stomach is an organ, and the intestine as well is an organ. So these are some of the organs you can find in animals. Examples of organs in plants are leaves, roots, shoots, flowers, etc. So if you look at the image of the function of plant organs, you see some organs and their functions. Number one, we have leaves. The function of leaf is to carry out photosynthesis in the plant. Two, we have stems. Function of stem is to support the plants and also to transport material within the plant. We have roots. The root is the part that is inside the soil. Its function is to give anchorage to the plant. It helps in absorption of materials. It helps in storage of food and also in conduction of material like water as well. Another one is flower. Flower serves as the reproductive part of a plant. That means it is the parts that a plant used to carry out reproduction. Now, some organisms like nematodes, platyhelminthes such as tapeworm, flukeworm, planaria, etc., onions, ginger, garlic, moles, they exist in this level of organization. The meaning is that they only have cells, tissues, and organs inside them. Now, the last level is the system. The system is a group of similar organs which come together to perform a specific function. So when you have several organs coming together, they will form what we call a system, and this system will perform a specific function different from the individual organ. Now, examples of system in animals are reproductive system, excretory system, respiratory system, digestive system, and so on. Now, if you look at the image once again on your left hand side, you're going to see more of this system we're talking about. We have the nervous system, respiratory system, circulatory system, digestive system, excretory system, muscular system, skeletal system, integumentary system, immune system, the endocrine system, and of course the reproductive system. Now, all the systems, they have parts that make up each and every one of them. Now, examples of system in plants are shoot system and the root system. Now, if you look at the image once again, it says that plants have two main organ systems: the shoot system, which is the one above the soil, and the root system, which is the one inside the soil. Now the shoot system include leaves, the stem, the flower, and the rest. If you remember, those are actually tissues. Those are actually organs, those are organs. Okay, now the function of the system is to the shoot system is to transport food and water through the plants. Now the other part is the root system, which is inside the soil. It gives anchorage to the plant. It also helps in taking in water and nutrients to the plant. Now plants like ferns, flowering plants, and animals such as mammals are all in this level of system. In some, they will, or in another word, you can call it organ system. And so the totality of this form what we call an organism. Let's look at complexity of organization in higher organisms. Simple organisms are able to carry out life processes like respiration, excretion, growth, and so on. If you remember in our lesson under characteristics of living things, you find out that all these life processes are also known as what? Characteristics of living things. But their primitive form reduces their ability to adapt in their environment. However, higher organisms have higher organization of life, which ensures that they are efficient and capable of surviving better in their environment. What are we saying? Now, if you look at evolutionary trend in vertebrate, you find out that Pisces, which are fishes, okay, from there it moves to amphibians. Amphibians also move to reptilia. Reptilia evolved to become aves, and aves evolved to become mammals. So this is showing an evolutionary trend in vertebrates. Now, evolutionary trend in vertebrates will give us a better understanding of how life moves from simple to complex. The meaning is that fishes are more simpler than amphibians. Amphibians are more simpler than the reptilia. Reptilia are more simpler in form than the aves, and the aves are more simpler in form than mammals. So from here we can say mammals are more complex than aves, aves are more complex than reptilias, reptilias are more complex than amphibians, amphibians are more complex than Pisces. This evolutionary movement from simple to complex also is seen in plants. Like in the evolutionary trend of plant, we have what we call the Tylophyta, which are simpler than the Bryophyta. Bryophyta simpler than the Pteridophytes, and those ones who are simpler than the Spermatophytes. So the Spermatophytes are the most advanced in plants. They are more complex than others. So we can also see this in the invertebrates, which start from the Poriferas to the Coelentrates, from there to the Platyrrhinites, and so on. So advantages of complexity in higher organisms. Now, being advanced in structures and in functions and form has its own advantages. So that is what we mean by advantages of complexity in higher organisms. So organisms that are advanced in nature are much more at an advantage side than those that are simpler, like the amoebas, the parameciums, and the rest. Now, number one advantages of complexity in higher organisms is that 1. It leads to efficiency in carrying out life processes. Life processes, don't forget, means characteristics of living, so they can easily or efficiently carry out their life processes like respiration, reproduction, growth, excretion, and so on. Number 2 advantage of complexity in higher organisms is that it leads to cellular differentiation. Now the cells, after they have been formed, let me use the word form, it's actually known as cell division, they become kind of differentiated into different types of cells. The one that become the nerve cells become it, the one that become the sperm cell become it, the one that become the bone cells become the bone cells. So they become specialized. So in higher organisms, cells are become differentiated to perform specific function. Number 3 is that it leads to interdependence between cells. So the cells are interdependent, they can't do without each other. So in economics, we actually call it division of labor. Each of them carry out their own function. They just depend on each other to survive. Number 4, it leads to specialization of cells. The cells become specialized to perform its own specific function. Number 5 is that it leads to increase in size. Yes, the bigger the better. Number 6, higher organisms are better able to adapt to various habitats. Unlike those primitive organisms or simple organisms, they are restricted to a particular habitat. They can't even exploit other habitats. If you pick them from their habitat, put them in another habitat, you find out that they can't actually survive. So unlike complex animals, they can adapt in various habitats. Disadvantages of complexity in higher organisms. Number 1 is inability of cells to exist on their own or independently. They are just like joined together, butter and bread. They can't separate. So that is a disadvantage. Number 2, waste products are excreted at a slower rate. You cannot easily remove waste. If you look at human being, for example, it takes a very long time before waste products are formed in our body and of course excreted. Now, slower rate of diffusion will also occur. The rate at which diffusion takes place in the body is slowed as organisms become more complex in structure and form. Number 4, higher organisms experience difficulties in carrying out reproduction, intake of gases, that is under respiration, and of course in even feeding. Before the food, they take in food, digest the food become absorbed in the body, and even pass out the waste. It takes a very long process and a long time compared to those of simpler organisms. Higher organism has this as a very, very big disadvantage. Okay, the last one here is ability to regenerate will decrease. Now, what do you mean by regenerate? Now, some simple organisms, when they lose their part, they are able to regenerate it, make them back. Okay, lost parts can be regenerated, can be regotten, can be replaced, but in higher organisms it's not possible. For example, if someone loses a leg, you can't get it back. It's gone forever. If someone loses an organ, it's gone forever. It cannot be replaced naturally by that organism. So that is the meaning of ability to regenerate. Parts decreases. All right. Okay, I think right now we have come to the end of our lesson. Under here we have student activity. You have to attempt the questions given on this topic to actually know your level of understanding of the lesson. So all you need to do is click on the link below there. It will take you to the question. Just answer it. It will mark it for you and give you your score. If you know you didn't do it, you can as well go back to the lesson and listen to it again. You'll get it. But I want to say thank you at this time for learning, joining me in the class. Have a wonderful time.